This MMA 30 segment is powered by The Gun Store. Next time you're in Las Vegas, if you want to shoot a real machine gun, do it at The Gun Store at 2900 East Tropicana.
And I want to ask you about his decision. You know, do you commend a guy like that, a young kid that has a championship shot, and he fights a veteran like you?
Absolutely. He's very well spoken. I've been a fan of his before we even got the fight. He fought a friend and a former opponent of mine, Bart Palashevsky, and it's kind of little Midwest fun. You know what I mean? You get to see your traditional striker. You know, growing up, coming through the WEC and beating up guys in the local shows, and you get to see your traditional wrestler. You know, when I got to fight in the Midwest and things like that, and then we got to face off. But yeah, like I said, I was a fan. I remember seeing him. We'd always say "What's up" when I was watching him in the WEC fight. So very well spoken. He's got a very bright future.
And how do you just, Clay, give him credit for taking the fight? Because it would have been easy with the championship just to sit on it, and he didn't.
Absolutely. A young man like Anthony Pettis is not one of those guys that like to sit around. He's a momentum fighter. He's very confident in his skills, and he's got, like I said, a very bright future. And I commend him for not sitting back and waiting. Who knows? It could be 6 months to a year now before Frankie and Gray maybe square off again. So ring rust is it's hard to shake off.
And Anthony, if I could ask you, you know, do you regret the decision now that you know the outcome of the fight?
No, not at all, man. I feel I had some holes in my game, and Clay Guida and Greg Jackson did a good job of having a good game plan, and I got to go back to the drawing board and just get better everywhere.
And then the last thing, and I'll let somebody else ask, I wanted to ask you about the kick on the ground in the first round, and maybe ask both of you guys about that. You know, that was kind of an athletic move. If you could just explain what that was and what was going on there.
I don't even remember what kick you're talking about. Which one?
You were on the ground, and you kind of tried to kick him from the ground, and it was.
I think I was just fighting, man. I was just trying to win somehow. What was that?
I know I was just running. He kicked me up against the cage, and he's got thunder kicks, and like I said, very creative, a lot of fun.
For Clay, obviously this kind of complicates the lightweight division title picture, but what are your thoughts? Do you think you've done enough to earn that shot, and who do you think should be next in line?
I didn't want to see it go to the judges. You know, obviously a dominating victory, excuse me, with a finish would have looked, you know, more highly in the eyes of the UFC, of Dana White and Joe Silva, who picked the fights. So it's interesting now. Ben Henderson and Jim Miller, you know, who knows? Jim Miller, I think it could be the front runner, but I think everyone that has seen me fight knows that I've probably fought the toughest competition in the lightweight division. You know, we never have walk-through fights. We always fight the best competition, like Anthony Pettis, and I would love to get that shot. I've paid my dues. I've been here 5 years in October. 9-5 in the UFC does not sit well with me. It's a average record at best for me. You know what I mean? But I just want to get in there and show the world what the most exciting lightweight fighter is all about.
I'm just so excited to be back and prove that I belong here still, with all the questions, you know, and the life-changing injury, possibly career-ending injury. I'm just excited to be back, and I think it, you know, can throw me back right in the mix in the middleweight division. I'm ready to make a run.
What did you think of Kendall Grove's recent loss to Tim Boesch? Have you been following him since you two were the
Yeah, for sure. You know, I was a little bummed. I was hoping he'd go on a little run too, so we could have a big rematch and get some hype behind it. I was bummed to see him lose, but you know, at the same time, I've trained with Tim, so I was proud to see him win as well.
Tony, welcome. You're officially in the UFC. Who are you looking at? Is there somebody you'd really like to face as your first real UFC opponent?
Well, first, my fiance, you know, I think she wants to pick a bone with me. You know, I've been kind of like a shell to her, but honestly, I saw Amir Sadollah over there, and I knew that he was, you know, he was a pretty big guy that was from the Ultimate Fighter, but, you know, I think that would be a pretty good little start right there. You know, it doesn't matter who gets put in front of me. You know, I have great coaches that are going to get me ready for any kind of fight. You know, it took me a little bit to get used to, like, you know, being in front of everybody, but, you know, I think I do belong here. You know I do. Got the trophy now to prove it.
Yeah, I'm over here. Did it mean anything to you to make this comeback on the Ultimate Fighter finale, you know, sort of coming full circle in that sense?
Yeah, for sure. It was cool to be here on the finale with the guys coming off season 13. 10 seasons after mine. It's kind of crazy. I don't even know if any of those guys remember me. But, no, it meant a lot. And I got the opportunity to be on the main card. If it was a big pay-per-view, I may not have had that opportunity. So to get out there and, you know, let the people know that I'm still fighting. You know, when you're not on TV for a while, people tend to forget you. So it was good to have that opportunity.
And do you feel that it takes a while to sort of change whatever image that you come up with coming off the show? Will that be sort of a cautionary tale maybe for Tony and Chris as they start their
Yeah, for sure, man. I still, like, I remember I sent out a tweet saying, hey, man, give me some followers. And there was some guys on there like, if you weren't such a jerk on the Ultimate Fighter 3 like 10 years ago, maybe I would, you know. So people hold that stuff against you, you know. But, on that show, man, there's a lot of emotions going, and you know, sometimes you can make mistakes, and that you can make yourself look bad when you're not a bad dude. You know what I mean? I know we're all good dudes, and being on that show brings the worst and the best out of you.
I have a question for Chris. Chris, you were able to land a left hook was finding a home pretty regularly, right here, and. It seemed like that you were just throwing everything in your arsenal. How did you feel like your performance was going out there?
Well, I was underestimated the whole season throughout the show. I was looking at this guy like, hey, like from what Lou Pauly was telling everyone, like I was just basically like someone they could just walk through, and I think Javier thought that. And then when Shamar was up, to fight me, I think he thought he was gonna go right through me too. And that was my real statement. I think Chuck came in after the fight, and he was just kind of amazed. He's like, dude, you got way better. And I said, well, what do you think I did, Chuck? Do you think I just basically got off the show and just started partying? No, I took 2 days off, and I was right back in the gym. But I wasn't posting stuff on Facebook or Twitter like I was training because I wanted people to think I wasn't doing anything. But I had a solid camp. I brought 2 guys in, Casey Ryan and Jake Mapes, both basically brown and black belts in jiu-jitsu. They're 6'5", great strikers, resembles Chuck a lot. And it was a hard thing because me and Chuck are friends, We basically, he was one of the few people that I kept in contact with when the show ended. We were texting back and forth, and then one day we got a call from Joe Silva saying, hey, I got good news. You're going to be fighting your buddy Chuck O'Neal. And I'm just like, and I sent basically Chuck a text and said, hey, we're fighting. And he's like, I know. And then the text and the phone call stopped for like 6 weeks, and then we met. But it was a weird deal because it's hard fighting a friend, but at the same time, it's part of the show, And I got a lot of slack that people thought like I was, giving like information to the other team on the show and everything like this, and I was this double agent spy. But yeah, I mean, I was watching everybody on the show because the thing is about that house, you never know who you're gonna fight. You could be fighting someone on the other team, you could be fighting someone on your team, and it really can, like Ed said, it can really do a toll on you being in that house for 6 weeks, not having any like support network, not having any TV, not having none of that stuff. You start to go crazy.
Was it hard for you to go for the finish tonight? Did you feel like you could have finished him out there?
The opportunity, presented itself, and I wanted to go for the finish, but then at the same time, my whole goal, first and foremost, was just to fight in the UFC. I remember when I was a kid in '93 watching it and seeing the first UFC, and then here I am fighting in the UFC, and it was just kind of a big shock. The finish could have happened. There's definitely holes and stuff that I could work on, but I was happy with my performance. But there's always room for improvement.
And a question for Clay. Clay, were you surprised at all from anything from Anthony? He really worked a lot off of his back really well, triangles, arm bars, really throwing up a lot of jiu-jitsu.
He's the trickiest guy I've fought off. He's got the most tricky guard I've ever fought. The guy was just throwing what I must have defended 10, 12 triangles, arm bars, and he hit me lights out a couple times from the bottom. I ain't gonna lie, he kicked me in the back of the head, punched me, elbowed me. He's tough as nails. And like I said, I got a real tricky guard, and he's a super talented kid.
Hey, Clay, your wins kind of sparked a little bit of debate. People are talking about the role of wrestling and MMA, and, were you doing enough to win? When you looked at that fight, what can you point to as to why you took every round?
Wrestling wins championships. Look at most of the champs right now. Some of the guys that have hard time. Anderson Silva is one of my favorite fighters. You've seen he has trouble with good wrestlers like Chael Sonnen. Cain Velasquez is one of the best wrestlers out there. George St. Pierre, phenom. He's one of those athletes that comes around once every 100 years. The guy could probably go wrestling in the Olympics right now. You saw he used to struggle with wrestling. Now he's the master of it. Jose Aldo, has a couple holes in his game. But, we've seen besides maybe his gas tank that could be wrestling. And Mark Hominick is not a great wrestler, and he was taking him down. There's no secret anymore. Wrestling wins championships. I got a lot of work on my wrestling. I have a lot of work on my top game, on my hands. Obviously, I was tentative. Anthony, he had me backing up for a little bit, and then we were kind of going back and forth. He's very rangy, and I was just kind of tentative with his kicks and punches and things like that.
Sure. And if I could ask Anthony about that as well, when the fight was over, your body language, it looked like you knew you had lost the fight, but was there any part of you that thought maybe I did do enough off my back, maybe my strikes were enough? Was there any part that, or did you know?
I think I know the control-wise. I felt that he was on top. He did a good job staying on top. I couldn't get my submissions off. I attempted a lot. I hit him a lot. It's just I understand how the game works. If he controls you, you lose the round. So I didn't do enough to get up or get off my back. So big up to Clay, and I'm gonna work on it. Come back stronger.
Thank you. For Tony, please, could you walk us through the fight? It seemed like it was a pretty even matchup until you did get the finish. Can you talk us, kind of how you were feeling as the fight was playing out?
I knew that he wasn't going to expect me to go for a takedown for him, and that's exactly what we were practicing over at Team Death Clutch over in Alexandria. I've always had hands, but I kind of forgot that I was a wrestler. If you guys saw in my first fight in the house, I got taken down twice. So I knew that he was going to expect to, put a lot of pressure on me. So I took that inside, and I remembered that, not to panic when he did come at me. So when he did do that, I tried to, watch out for some knees and stuff. But I knew he was going to be kind of sporadic, going all over the place, So I had my takedown, tried to slow it down a little bit more. Scrambled up, he got to my legs, flipped through, did a couple things, just kind of disorient him a little bit. We stood back up. He popped me a couple times, if you guys saw, I was kind of like, I had to shake it out. It kind of reminded me back in high school playing football. But when you shake it out, you have to find the play and you have to find out what's going on where that ball is. That's what I did was I headhunted. And I tried to move around a little bit, slip some punches, and I just remember my coach saying, throw that hook out there. He's going to leave his hands out there. And that's exactly what I did. I tried to throw a three-punch combo, but boom, that left hook, got him straight down the ground and just finished him.
And you've competed at lightweight before. Is lightweight in your future, or is welterweight your home?
Lightweight's in my future, it depends on what, anybody wants me to fight. Dana wants me to fight. I fought David Gardner at 155, and, I did really good. I'm a big 55-pounder, but I like 70, I wrestled in college at 165. I bumped up to 184 for my team, but, I'm comfortable where I'm at right now. This is I like food, I like eating, I like lifting, and, my girl likes me a lot better at 170. I'm kind of a crab at 155, but, I can definitely see myself going lightweight, but I love welterweight.
And finally, for Chris, can you? So you were getting a little bit of, love from the crowd tonight. There were woos echoing through the building. Can you maybe tell us, what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, it's this whole experience. This is supposed to be fun. This is why we all do this. It's not. When I go out there, I'm trying to have as much fun as possible because when I was a kid, I was 9 years old. I used to always think about, what it'd be like to fight in the UFC. I was all about Van Damme movies like Bloodsport and everything else. And look, now I'm fighting in a cage and I'm on TV and I got Bruce Buffer in the middle. I got Joe Rogan interviewing me. It's a surreal experience, So I'm taking it all in. I'm having as much fun as possible. And, I bust my ass and I work really, really hard at what I do. I'm not the strongest guy out there. I'm not the fastest guy, but I listen and I work hard, And I talked to Dominic Cruz about a month ago, as I went over there to Alliance and did some training, for this fight and for a little bit. And I just said, how'd you become champ? He's like, it's really easy, man. I work really hard and I listen. And anybody that knows Dominic, that's what he does. The guy he's always in the gym. He's always working. He's always listening. He fights on Saturday. He's back in the gym on Monday. I've heard the same thing about GSP. If you want to be a champion, if you want to be good at this, you got to basically put in the work. And you got to listen to your coaches. And you got to have a team put together. It's not one of these things you can just do solo,